It's up to you. You decide. You're the architect as much as you are the manufacturer, the builder, the fabricator, the laborer. It's all you. This is an all-encompassing effort on your part. Whenever you decide something, you can literally create a vibrational field of energy from nothingness and make that whatever you want it to be. You can decide what energies are allowed in there and which ones are not. That's the power of the energy that God gave you. I always say sacred space because they have conditioned you to refer to your unlimited transformative potential energy as something that doesn't exist. I've said it in very many of my videos, and I'll keep iterating it again and again. They always encourage you to use your imagination, but if you look up the definition of the word imagination, it says that it is imaginary. Look up the definition of the word imaginary, non-existent. So how could you possibly utilize something that doesn't exist? You can't. You can clearly see the agenda here to cause a disconnection between yourself and your soul, which is the unlimited power, because they don't want your attentions being drawn to the metaphysical, to the supernatural, to the spiritual. They want your attentions only focused on the material, the physical, and the terrestrial. Only the things of a dense matter, physical matter. That's all they want you to realize, that is the only life there is. That's why they tell you, this is the only life there is. Of course it isn't. How could it be? Because if this was the only life there is, then everything else out there would be a gigantic waste of space, wouldn't it? I mean, you really just got to use common sense in these types of matters. So it's really up to you to get in touch with what that means to you about how you can utilize your own unlimited powers. You just have to not allow anything to enter into that space that's going to contradict or counter or oppose these things. You don't want that. You want to just create a space, a vibrational environment, an atmosphere, and you put in the elements that are conducive to allowing that to flow effortlessly, freely, and fluidly without any resistance, friction, hindrances, impediments. There's no barriers in there. Everything just flows. There's no ebb. There's no tension. There's just flow. Because in these fields, nothing will remain sedentary or static as long as things keep flowing. But if you are intermittent with these things, or if you are vacillating, then you're pulling the plug and then you're putting it back in. You have to be the constant power supply and fuel source to allow these things as a life force to be animated and to move and flow and expand and flourish and blossom and rise. That's how your dreams are materialized in the physical. Everything is right here. That's why I've said so many times, you don't attract anything. Look up the definition of the word attract. It means to lure something in. So obviously, this is inferring that you want something outside yourself that you are consciously acknowledging that does not exist in your spatial plane that you occupy, your field that you are currently in. And that's what they want you to do, because that reinforces the lack, loss, absence, and missing and broken mentality. Like, I don't have it, I need it. That's why you waste your life searching outside yourself for everything they told you need to fill that void in order for you to be happy. It's nonsense. I've already made a video about happiness. It's real simple. You are your own happiness. You're disconnected because they are confusing you. They're telling you things that aren't true. It's like asking somebody for directions before there was GPS. And you get some sarcastic person that gives you the wrong directions deliberately. And of course you're going to get lost. And if that happens again and again and again, you'll never find your way because you don't know where these things are and you don't even know what they look like. So you're asking the establishment to make you aware of something that you're not clued in on, but they are, but they don't want you to know, because if you do come to understand that what you're searching outside yourself for can only be found in here, then they are done. They're obsolete and then extinct. That's why they keep these things from you. That's why they keep your head spinning with all of this erroneous science and this fallacious systems and this disingenuous spirituality that they press on you, and science and all of the equations and all of the processes and all of this stuff. It sounds fascinating. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking science. Science is real cool. When I was a kid, I used to have those science kits and the experiment boards and electricity, batteries. It was super cool. I think science is amazing when it's used for the betterment of humanity. But what they're doing with it now is just deplorable and just absolutely nefarious. So many people are oblivious to the nefarious machinations taking place around them. But that's a subject for another video. What I'm trying to say is that they're not going to make you aware of who and what you really are. Because if you were conscious of that, then you'd realize that, number one, you don't need them. Number two, you don't need their system. And number three, you wouldn't be reliant on anything outside yourself. So just in that sense, they're gone. So then they have no control, even though they don't anyway. Never acquiesce to the illusions of fear, because fear is the greatest illusion. Fear is just a wall of, transmitted low vibrational frequencies, pretending to be something of a realistic nature, but it's not. That's what confuses you. Because many people in this world, even though they could be in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, mentally, they're still 3 years old and 4 years old. And they rely on a system that has always been there ever since they were a child. So that faith and that trust that they have in the system never wavers. So in that aspect, that's why they keep going back, almost like parents. It's the same dynamic. And all of these three-letter agencies are all in the same clique. Trust me, they are. So when you ask this one or that one, how does that work? You're going to get all of the same misinformation and disinformation campaigns packaged as if it were the truth. And that's what you're going to carry. So here you have disingenuous information, plus you're being brainwashed and manipulated. And then you couple the fact with everything around you is an illusion, but it actually reinforces what they're telling you to be the truth. So that's your validity right there. That's your confirmation. So that's the place and the space that you're going to manifest from. Disingenuous, erroneous, fallacious. And that's exactly what you'll see as experiences that manifest in your reality. And this is the reason why people are surrounded by subdimensional, terrestrial experiences that match the dominant vibrational frequency of the matrix. And that's what, solidifies their mentality, saying, this is reality. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. This is it. Because look, I could see it. I could sense it. I could taste it, touch it, smell it. It's right there. I can hold it in my hand. I can thump it. That's real. I don't acknowledge anything else. And in doing that, they're reinforcing the imagination theory that they put in your head, that your imagination doesn't exist. So just listen to us. We know what we're talking about. It's just an imaginary figment. That's why they say a figment of your imagination. So it's an imaginary element of an imaginary element, which is just lunacy. That's why people are unaware of their power, their potential, and their capability, not as physical beings, finite, limited physical beings, but infinite, limitless, luminous beings, ethereal, metaphysical, supernatural, extraterrestrial. So that's why they're not going to clue you in, folks, on what this is and what you can do and why you're here and what this is all about. They're going to just tell you that's the moon, that's the sun, that's the stars, that's the wind, that's the this, and you're like, okay. And you don't even pay attention to it because people are too zoned out and zombied out on their phones. Nobody even looks up at the sky anymore. Nobody even establishes and maintains eye contact and conversation anymore. Nobody has any conversations of substance. It's all media-based garbage. How many conversations have you had with someone where you're actually talking to the side of their face because they're so busy being glued to their cell phone? I'm quite sure that's happened quite a few times. Back when I was a kid, it was always eye-to-eye contact. It's personal. It's humane. Texting now. Texting is impersonal. That's inhumane communication. There's no one-on-one. You're not vibing with an actual body. Making eye contact is a very deep experience because the souls are connecting. But when you have people texting, you're isolating, in separate environments. And that's very unhealthy. That's very impersonal. So they don't want you to realize what anything is, because from the moment you've arrived here, it's been nothing but one lie after another. And if something doesn't work out, they'll cover up that lie with something that's more plausible. It's what they call plausible deniability. It works perfectly on most people, but not the intelligent ones. So just know what you are as a soul, as a being, as an essence, presence, aura, as an entity, as a cosmic celestial body, because you are the everything of everything that goes on forever in every direction, man. That's just the straight truth. How could you be separate from something that is the everything of everything? That's impossible. You can no more secede from yourself than you can run away from your past. It's all integrated. It's all entangled. Everything is one. So don't you think that the creator of all creation that created you from that source would give you the same powers and abilities? Seriously, contemplate what I'm saying. I want you to seriously contemplate that just for a second. Because of course, you are thoroughly equipped and incorporated with these elements. That's why I say you don't need feathers and you don't need crystals and sage, incense, candles. You don't need all of these trinkets, gadgets, and gizmos and accoutrements. You don't need these accessories that they push on all of the big stores online. That this is what you need to be spiritual. You need crystals. All of the energy of the everything of everything comes from the same source. So you are comprised of the very same source of energy that everything else is. All you have to do is recognize it, bring it out from its dormancy, and amplify it, augment it, propagate it, complement it, celebrate it, promote it. But unfortunately, what people do is they diminish it, they attenuate it, they deplete it, they devolve it, they deteriorate it, they degrade it, they downplay themselves, they pigeonhole themselves, they put others before them, essentially casting away their unlimited powers in exchange for these material trappings. And the sacrifice is that you gain yourself and you lose your soul. And then who are you? You're just nothing but a disingenuous entity, assuming the false identity in a false positive, false light, false energy network, a false grid, the matrix. And that's a tragedy because you're just another assimilated copy of a drone of a drone. The farther away from source, the more degraded the connectivity and receptivity until there is 100% latency. That's what I see here with these younger and younger generations. I see no connection to source. You have to connect to the source of all creation, which is you. There's a disconnect. That's why people are infatuated with materialism, hedonism, egoism, separatism, idolatry. I can go on. Polarization, duality, it's a box and a box and a box and a box and a box. You have to leave yourself vulnerable and open to the universe in order to send and receive properly. You can't take an antenna and bury it 60 miles on the ground and expect to get good reception. It's not going to happen. You have to be a divine transceiver, a perfect antenna, to send and receive signals both to and from the divine. That's why everything is comprised of water in the physical, because it is the optimum conductor of electromagnetic induction, of electricity. Your body is mainly water, the earth, the air you breathe. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory on that level. But anyway, just explore your own personal space. This is the existential reality, man. It's not disingenuous and it's not illusionary, and it's certainly not a delusional fantasy world unless you create it for yourself and you decide to live in there instead of thrive inside your own sacred environment. As I've said before, many tend to retreat to a sanctuary of illusions when reality is far too painful or too frightening because they're not used to the truth. Because when the truth hurts, you're living a lie. That's clearly evident. And that's why people never heal. They just think that they can laugh it off, yeah, whatever, and then just keep going on. But they're not addressing the issues that have been repressed and internalized. So they'll just keep generating the same experience and more of the same outcomes, conclusions, and realities that are unbearable and undesirable, which forces them to either retreat to the past of escapism or remain addicted to the promises of tomorrow. Source gives you selections, options, decisions, and choices. A multitude. They are there for you to take and to embrace and to connect. Or not. You could stay in your pigeonhole, your comfort zone, your little safety nest and rot and complain about life. Or you can get out of there because you've had your wings all along and fly. That's why people who are religious zealots are mentally crippled, because religion is the emotional crutch. Because they're children in their mind and they can't think for themselves. They need to be guided and told what to do. That's why you have guided meditation, because just as much as you have the religious crowd that can't think for themselves, you have the spiritual crowd, the commercial spiritual crowd that aren't really spiritual at all. They think they are. These are the disingenuous spiritualists that live in their meditative Buddha bubble, that feel that they are incapable of being negative or raising their voice or being angry or ever carrying darkness or evil. They play that delusional little game with themselves. But then that's where conflict arises within them. And that's when they fight their inner demons instead of stop feeding them, which is fear, anguish, self-loathing, self-deprecation, and so on. So they carry that conflict and they pass it on to others. And they don't do what they say. That's why they're disingenuous spiritualists, because they're pontificating all of this lunacy to you and I as if we should just bow down to these holy nuggets of wisdom and just imbibe them as if they are the word of God. And at the same time, they exist on this pretentious pedestal, this perch, posturing themselves as if they are God. Look at me, I'm a multimillionaire. I've got everything all under control. And they don't. They don't practice what they preach, and they know it. And they know that what they're preaching is garbage. As long as their bank is getting fat, that's all they care about. Fill those seats in those seminars, sell those programs, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. That's it. There's nothing spiritual about that stuff, folks. That's everything material. You don't need accessories to connect with the universe. You just need yourself. The journey within is indeed to cross over to the other side. And by other side, I mean the fourth dimension and beyond. Because if not, you're always going to be trapped in the third dimensional existence. And that is the matrix. And that's why they hypnotize you with their system. And they want to keep you down there for a lot of reasons. They repress your energies and they harness that. They isolate you. They prevent you from awakening. They prevent any type of ascension or awareness or enlightenment. And anytime you're curious about something and you ask a question, they ostracize you as a pariah, as if you're a nut job, and call you a conspiracy theorist. And then you're cast out because you refuse to conform. This is the old paradigm. This is the way they run it. This is how they run the show. So it's up to you to consciously be aware of your situation, that you're on Earth, not to work for some company or some corporation and work your way up the corporate ladder, like some rat. But to actually do something substantial of a qualitative nature with the duration of time you're given on this earth. Because you did not come to this earth to make something of yourself in their system. You came to earth to make something of yourself as a soul and then move on to something else off of this planet, hopefully never to return. Or maybe you will. But anyway, in closing, I'd like to say, don't refer to the most unlimited transformative potential energy as if it was an imaginary element, like a flying dinosaur or something like that. You have to stop relating your sacred space, your imagination, as imaginary. Regard it for what it is and for what it can do, and how it can be the most useful element to help you help yourself and help others. if you utilize it properly and you are consciously aware of the power and the unlimited transformative potential that it possesses. Because if you take it as a joke, you're not using it properly, because you have the world's greatest treasure and the celestial treasures of the universe right at your disposal. But if you're not vibrating high enough, you won't even see anything. You'll just be so focused on their system. Everything else is just invisible. And that's where they have you. But hopefully, that's not where you're going to be in the very near future because of videos like this and others. Thank God.